Hello guys, welcome back to another video and happy Halloween. Yeah, it's quite weird when you think about it. Also because we're gonna do mainly amusement parks or something to do with attractions or costumes this year. And I think that'll be right to do with either Disneyland or any other amusement parks in Halloween. So let's go. And before we go into that sort of thing, sad to say, because nobody's interested in my videos for some reason. I know some of you are, but most of them are not because I don't know why. But anyway, so the other thing is, please subscribe. I know that lots of people have subscribed to me recently, and I do actually like that. And in the last 2 or 3 videos, I had the same sort of t-shirt for some reason. I didn't really notice at the time when I was making another Halloween video, so don't know why, but then I looked over thinking, oh, will people notice, will people not notice? I'm not sure. I don't think they'd care. But yeah, 2 people wearing the same t-shirts. Well, that's a little bit confusing, I know. So, I'm not sure, okay, could we just say at the end of the day, we haven't got much, shirts and other clothes in the wardrobe and everything, or in any sort of, so at the end of the day, we don't care, okay? Anyway, yeah, let's begin. So, yeah, please subscribe to Disney Dan, amazing top 10, and also please subscribe to Yesterworld, who's going to be in this video. So please subscribe to them. They make really good content and everything, so please subscribe to them. Just like last year, we reacted to Glenn and George and other people. So yeah, I think it's right for you to subscribe to, also links in the description, to subscribe to the other YouTubers featured in this video. So anyway, let's go. So yeah, this is quite interesting that we're gonna react to another, because I guess every year we react to YouTubers on Halloween to do with something. I'm not sure. It's a thing at the moment. Yeah, so let's get into it.
Hold on to your children, magic pumpkins, and bewitched poisoned apples, because for episode 14 of DIStory, we're going to bring you a really creepy look back at some really, really weird vintage costumes. We've brought you the creepy costumes from Disneyland parks and shows, but what we haven't focused on yet is the terrifying homemade costumes and outfits that came before the Icecapades, theme parks, or red carpet events. You might think that cut-open foam face of Mickey Mouse from Disneyland in 1955 is the creepiest Mickey costume you've ever seen. Guess what? You're wrong. In the time between Mickey Mouse first entering the hearts of the world in 1928 and the late 1930s, when commercially produced costumes became available, there was a small period when crafty fans and adventurous costume shops made their own versions of a walk-around Mickey Mouse costume. So hold on to your spooky hats, and let's look back at the creepy evolution of vintage Mickey Mouse homemade costumes. The earliest photos of homemade Mickey Mouse costumes look to mostly be by local family-owned costume shops, which took popular characters at the time and did their best to make a familiar version to entertain kids. You can still see costume shops do this today with knockoff Mickey Mouse characters in places like Times Square, New York, or Hollywood Boulevard in Los Angeles. These costumes are super freaky, but you can tell that they maybe had their best intentions. I'm not really sure. Some of these are really weird looking. The faces were made of either carefully patterned fabric with hard boning or foam inside to give it some support, or crafty papier-mâché creations with carefully sculpted, finished big round signature heads and round ears. These are just really, really strange. Some costumes were actually official in the sense that Disney had hired companies to make a character mask or outfit to promote something for an appearance. But this was long before Disney had their own theme parks and people who worked in the theme parks who made costumes and designed them and kind of had official stuff going. So these unique builds were just that unique. There was no rule book. This homemade creativity is what led us to some of these really weird choices and ultimately even weirder results. Some of these Mickey Mouse costumes look like they might sneak into your home at night and try to eat you. One of those officially commissioned masks was around this time of the homemade Disney Mickey Mouse kind of costume shop weirdness, and it was designed by Kay Kamen and stands above the rest. Built by the Old King Cole Display Company, the legendary merchandising partner to Disney, Kay Kamen was the man that was kind of the driving force behind all kinds of Mickey merchandise, including the iconic Mickey Mouse watch. This costume now sits happily in a private collection on top of a Charlie Chaplin statue, of course, still with the signature velvet clothing that he was originally released with, folded neatly inside. The clean lines and more polished look of this Mickey costume is what ushered in some of the better-looking vintage Mickey Mouse outfits moving forward. In fact, as Mickey Mouse began to grow rapidly in popularity, he was included in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in the early 1930s with a massive balloon. Just like you see today with all the people handling the balloons, the group of parade performers all wore signature matching Mickey Mouse heads. The small batch of Mickey Mouse heads may be one of the first large batches of unofficial park heads to be made. The papier-mâché heads had a large red tongue and the signature view holes inside of the large black eye. Believe it or not, some of these heads survived today despite being close to 90 years old and are on display in some private collections, which I think is pretty awesome. Mickey would continue to be used in the parade for several years in the 1930s, and each year the balloon handlers would return and those escorts would be wearing those cool giant papier-mâché Mickey heads, which didn't look all that bad. Around the same time of the Mickey Mouse parading around Thanksgiving, the Mickey Mouse Club sensation was spreading across the nation. Hordes of people would gather, families, friends, kids, adults, into large theaters so they could watch the Mickey Mouse cartoons and celebrate their fandom. This iconic photo of the group shows them all wearing an early mass-produced Mickey Mouse mask. These paper masks came in a few different characters like Mickey, Minnie, and even Clarabelle, the two lead mice being the most popular and in-demand mask, right? You don't see any Clarabelles in that crowd now, do you? There is really something truly unsettling to this picture, with the hundreds of Disney cartoon fans all staring blankly at you with these thin paper masks on. It's just so many Mickey heads. It's just, ooh, it gives me the shivers to look at it for a long time. Eventually, the Disney company officially licensed the Mickey Mouse characters to have their own official Halloween costumes mass-produced commercially. You'd hope that this would mean that some nice, friendly, happy masks of your iconic childhood characters would be brought to the public, but sadly, that's not the case. These early Halloween costumes made by the Warnova company are just as equally creepy as some of the early homemade stuff we just saw. They came in both adult sizes and kid sizes and featured a mask, pants, gloves, and a Mickey Mouse patch that you would wear on your black t-shirt. In fact, the company made several versions of this costume for Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Clarabelle, Horace, and even the Big Bad Wolf, all with their own unique kind of outfits that went with the masks, including a round patch that featured whatever character you were supposed to be. Because in case the mask wasn't clear enough, you could say, oh, look, there's that patch with Minnie on it. I guess you're supposed to be Minnie because you're terrifying my dreams right now. Pictures of both kids and adults wearing these costumes are so weird and creepy. I don't know if it's how they're unexpressive and simple that the masks make are so weird to look at, or maybe it's the cold black eye and the stark white contrast of the white face. I don't know. There's just something about these vintage photos of children and even some adults wearing these masks and they're just kind of staring at you blankly through space and time in these black and white photos. It just is really unsettling. You know me, I tried desperately to find some videos of kids wearing these costumes, and I couldn't find anything. So we'll just have to stick to these loads of vintage photos, and you can use your imagination, or maybe don't imagine these. Maybe it's best to just look at the photos and then forget you ever saw them. Don't let it creep into your psyche, into your dreams. Slowly, more colorful, creative Halloween costumes began to emerge with full outfits made of cheap plastic and thin plastic masks painted up with rosy cheeks and bright eyes. The evolution, really, of the creepy vintage ones from the 30s all the way through to the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, it's really fascinating to go. I mean, just hop on eBay for half an hour and just search vintage Mickey Mouse costumes and just look at all of the really, really cool costumes and like how they've changed over the years. It's absolutely fascinating to me. As the years rolled by, Mickey's Halloween costume got less and less creepy, thank goodness. It's kind of funny how for many years what kids considered to be a Halloween costume was just a flimsy mask and a wearable garbage bag, more or less, with the character they loved printed on it. Today, of course, we rely less and less on big masks and silly themed shirts for our mass-produced kids' costumes. Instead, kids get to wear Mickey Mouse by literally being in his costume with the signature red pants and the big round ears and the tucks and tails. No more weird Mickey printed on a garbage bag that you kind of wear around for Halloween and it barely lasts the night. Thank goodness we've gotten away from that. With Disney's crazy growth in theme parks and merchandising, in fact, it's been even easier than ever to throw together your own Mickey Mouse costume using the ears you snagged at the park during your last visit and some black shirts and pants or like a red skirt where you throw a couple white polka dots on. It's super easy to dress as Mickey and Minnie Mouse now, but before, you kind of had to rely on these mass-produced things because merchandising was not like it was today. But let's not forget the creepy history of modern Disney characters' costumes, both homemade and commercial, and be thankful that running into a Mickey during Halloween this year won't be as terrifying as it might have been running into Mickey back in 1936. There's our spooky look back at the Mickey Mouse costumed homemade evolution. I'm interested to know how many of my viewers and subscribers who might be a little bit older actually owned and wore some of these older vintage plastic bag, thin, flimsy plastic mask kind of costumes that were so incredibly popular in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I can't imagine them lasting more than I don't know, maybe one night of trick-or-treating. You just fall down once in a pile of leaves and the thing is shredded to pieces. They really look so incredibly flimsy and cheap. But thank you so much for watching. As always, I really appreciate it. It was hard to kind of put a timeline on some of these photos that we found of vintage Mickey Mouse. So if you have any more information about any of these photos, or if you want to share some creepy Mickey Mouse photos, hit us up on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can find all the links in the description below. And please, if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel, leave a comment, throw us a like, do all the things that you normally do if you like this content, and check out some of our other fun DIStory videos, including the very creepy evolution of the real Mickey Mouse from the theme parks, and also some of our cool DIStory mini episodes where we check out fun park secrets, facts, tidbits, all that kind of fun stuff. So thanks so much for watching. As always, big thanks to all the cool people who helped me put these videos together. Your research and your help is just endlessly appreciated. Really, really love it. And thanks so much to all the viewers. You're also great too. Thanks for watching, guys. You rock.
So yeah, this is quite, obviously I didn't grow up with this sort of thing, because I am grown up, no, I already am grown up, but I mean, I'm not grown up, I never, ever had all these sort of costumes, and if I did, I'll get, as he said, this is what I had in back in those days. You didn't have too much, better costumes back in those days, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think he's right to say all this sort of stuff. I know some people say, oh, it's so rubbish, it doesn't make any sense, or what we do, but yeah, this, at the end of the day, the world has changed and stuff. But anyway, yeah, quite spooky, the costumes, not the video itself, but so at the end of the day, we're lucky, okay? If you want to say, oh, I want this costume, you just want this costume, if you're stuck in the 1930s, 50s, whatever, you've been stuck with those costumes, and you'll be more terrified than Ronald McDonald. Okay, okay, whatever. You know what I mean? So yeah, I do actually like Disney Dan's videos. I'm not saying I hate them. I really recommend you watching all of his videos. So, as again, it's up to you whatever you want to do with subscribing to people, but I really recommend you checking him out. So yeah, on to the next one. You know what I mean? So yeah, obviously I haven't got any sweets or anything in this video, but I feel like I have to do something in this video, and I haven't got anything though. So at the end of the day, I haven't really planned it. Okay, I have planned this for actually, but so this Halloween video might be different to the other ones. I just haven't got anything, you know what I mean? But let's see what the next one is without doing the intro. Let's see what the next one is gonna be about. Who knows?
Good evening, and welcome to another spooky episode of Yesterworld. You see, not every theme park story is... Oh, Yesterworld. Can you read me a bedtime story? Stitch, kind of in the middle of something here. Good evening, and welcome to another spooky episode of Yesterworld. You see, not every theme park... Mickey, get out of Bette Midler's room. Good evening, and welcome to another spooky episode of...
Hey Mark, what's the Wi-Fi password?
Okay, I'll just cut right to the chase. In this episode, we'll be exploring 5 more spooky theme park secrets, stories, and unsolved mysteries. So turn off those lights, grab some candy corn, and prepare yourself for a scary good time. Pun intended. Last year, we talked about ghost sightings at the Disney parks, but it seems like Universal Studios Hollywood has its own share of ghostly activity. The most infamous is the ghost of Lon Chaney, who supposedly haunts, or haunted, Soundstage 28, otherwise known as the Phantom Stage. It was originally built in 1925 for the Phantom of the Opera, and was not only the largest ever constructed, but the first to use steel and concrete. After filming was complete, much of the Opera House was left intact, becoming a permanent set for Universal productions and a piece of Hollywood history. But allegedly, after the death of Lon Chaney in 1930, he began haunting the stage. Lights flickering, strange noises with doors opening and shutting at random were common occurrences, with many claiming to have seen a caped figure walking in the catwalks above. In fact, the myth was so widespread that it was even featured as a plot device in an episode of Knight Rider.
I saw that guy, Mr. Knight, and he was real.
Look, let's not call him the Phantom of Stage 28. Let's just call him a man in a monk's robe, okay?
You call him what you want.
The legend was finally put to rest when the historic stage was demolished in 2014 and the Opera House put into storage, thus ending the ghostly sightings. Now admittedly, that one is a little far-fetched, but there's another that's downright creepy. In the summer of 2006, creative director John Murdy was given the task of reviving Halloween Horror Nights for Universal Studios Hollywood. As part of the event's return after a 6-year hiatus, the backlot was to be featured as a major part of the event, allowing visitors to roam what was normally off-limits to the public. According to the story, one night John Murdy and his assistant were scouting the backlot for possible locations for the Terror Tram. Suddenly, they both heard what was described as diabolical giggling. After a period of silence, they went to investigate the source of the spooky laughter, which seemed to have been coming from near the Psycho House. The giggling began once again, only this time much closer, so they both ran away in fear. But as it turned out, this was far from an isolated incident.
In that window on the second floor, the single one in front. That's where the
ghost
was first seen.
That house looks extremely familiar. Similar to, the Addams family house and other houses that look similar to the Addams family that's been ripped off a little bit, like from It, Pennywise house, or, well, I'm not going to say the Stranger Things, in season 4 is rip-off, but it's because it doesn't look anything like, because of the different house, but this it's just, like, why?
Let's go inside.
Many later confided in Murdy that they too had unusual experiences near the Psycho House, and while the details varied, they all had a common trait: the sighting of a man wearing a vintage aviator uniform. Going even further, this alleged sighting went back to some of the earliest days of Universal Studios history, so he decided to do a bit of research to see what was going on, and that's when he came across a newspaper article from 1915 about the death of an aviator on the backlot. You see, when Universal Studios officially opened to the public, or Universal City is known back then, they held a sort of grand opening celebration. In addition to other festivities, a pilot by the name of Frank Stites was to perform a stunt, in which he would appear to drop a bomb on an enemy plane. The stunt worked as intended, but the shockwave of the explosion caused him to lose control of the aircraft. As the plane spiraled down to Earth, he ejected from his cockpit, but was tragically killed on impact in front of horrified visitors. So convinced this was the source of the spooky laughter, John Murdy put together an effigy in his honor behind the Psycho House, and supposedly with that, the sightings came to an end. The legacy is kept alive even today, in the form of team members dressing as the fallen aviator during Halloween Horror Nights. The Forbidden Journey is by far one of Universal Studios' best attractions, but the Orlando version might very well have the creepiest abandoned effect in theme park history. Now, the attraction is no stranger to abandoned effects. Take, for instance, the Fat Lady portrait. As initially envisioned, a cast member would stand by a voice box, asking visitors for the password. When someone said the correct one, the portrait would activate and open, although whether you could actually step inside is unknown. This was abandoned before opening due to safety concerns, as it was thought to be a fire hazard given the size of the door opening into the queue. However, oddly enough, the abandoned effect was also built in the Hollywood and Tokyo's version, as evidently it was just easier to copy the blueprints verbatim. But the truly disturbing abandoned effect within the Forbidden Journey involves the Dementors.
Expecto Patronum!
For a bit of context, as initially envisioned, the encounter with the individual Dementors was to end with a massive group rushing towards the ride vehicle. But as the story goes, either Warner Brothers executives, or in some stories J.K. Rowling herself, found the encounter much too terrifying, so the effect was turned off before opening to the public, without anyone the wiser when going on the ride. However, over the years, it became clear that while the effect itself was turned off, the group of terrifying Dementors were left in the attraction's finale, completely hidden in the darkness. Another rather bizarre part of this involves the hands, as while all the Dementors initially had them, allegedly they were too easy to reach out and grab. This is why all the figures that do move are basically giant torsos without hands, as it was either this or risk a safety violation costing Universal an arm and a leg. Jokes aside, if you do want to see how this finale, where the design of the Dementors was supposed to be, or at least somewhat close to it, both Hollywood and Tokyo's version feature a tamed down version of the intended effect, hands and all. Universal Studios' Halloween Horror Nights has a long and fascinating history. It first began in 1991 as Fright Night, a 3-night event with 20 shows in just a single maze at Universal Studios Orlando. The event was a huge success and quickly grew into a cultural and entertainment phenomenon, eventually spanning across all 4 of the Universal Studios theme parks. But there's one year in particular that holds quite a few abandoned concepts, mysteries, and once-in-a-lifetime experiences: Halloween Horror Nights 12: Islands of Fear.
Bring that unbeliever to me!
For the first time in the event's 12-year history, the event would not take place at Universal's original theme park. Instead, it would take place at their recent expansion, Islands of Adventure. The initial horror icon was to be a little girl named Cindy, the demented daughter of a mortician named Paul Bearer. Each of the 4 islands would have been themed around her demented thoughts and twisted ideas as you stepped inside Cindy's mind. However, due to the media frenzy of increased child abductions around the same time, this was eventually abandoned. Instead, the icon became her father, renamed as Albert Crane, although Cindy would be featured in later versions of the event.
I am Albert Crane, and I am the caretaker.
There was also to be a very unique scare zone involving the Grinch, as some sort of terror icon, but the widow of Dr. Seuss forbid them from doing anything of the sort. Instead, Seuss Landing simply became Booville, with fog and backwards music and a couple ominous silhouettes of the Who's. But one of the most unique offerings of Islands of Fear, and of all the years since, was JP Extinction.
There is no safety or security when it comes to the prehistoric creatures in Universal's Jurassic Park.
During the day, you might come across the usual static dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, or the occasional helpful scientist, but at night this was a whole other story. The normally calm and pleasant stroll through the land became a nightmare-infused walk in the park. Within JP Extinction was an attraction called Project Evolution, an outdoor maze which used the Triceratops Discovery Trail as its home. Here visitors encountered a frantic Triceratops who's in the process of breaking out of his, or her, containment. You then came across a scientist by the name of Dr. Burton who screams at you, "They've all escaped." The rest of your expedition consists of running into Dr. Burton's dinosaur-human hybrids, as well as mutilated scientists and militia. The end of the attraction featured two incredibly disturbing sights. The first was the fate of Dr. Burton, who was presumably hung by his monstrous creations. The other was particularly gruesome, the depiction of a bloody Triceratops severed head, which was ripped straight out of his, or her, body. Now you might be thinking, well, this is kind of gratuitous, but where's the mystery? Well, for that, we have to travel to Superhero Island.
By day, this islands of adventure land is home to superheroes. By night, good has been crushed. The villains have won, and humans are in danger.
For Halloween Horror Nights 12 Islands of Fear, the land was transformed into Island Under Siege. Here visitors were tormented by supervillains and their minions as they walked through a city section under attack. Within Island Under Siege was a maze called Maximum Carnage, as the supervillain of the same name was made the land's horror icon. The maze was actually a first for Halloween Horror Nights, as instead of using an existing soundstage or building a temporary structure, Universal built a permanent warehouse for the walkthrough. Now both the maze and the premise of the Scare Zone were loosely based on the comic book series Maximum Carnage, in which the superheroes team up against Carnage and his team of supervillains. However, unlike the comics, in this iteration the superheroes lost and were presumably all killed. But allegedly, this was more than just a premise. As the story goes, very early promotional material mentioned the depiction of dead superheroes in the maze and Scare Zone, with their lifeless bodies strung up as trophies. Now this does seem like a stretch, but there are a lot of eyewitness accounts and descriptions of the maze that lend to its credibility. Going even further, those who supposedly saw this for themselves described a Wolverine with his arms ripped out, Captain America covered in blood, and a decapitated Spider-Man. However, despite numerous mentions of this gruesome sight, when looking through what photos and visuals have surfaced of the maze itself, as well as the Scare Zone, they're nowhere to be found. Granted, this was 2002, so it's entirely possible they were hidden too well in the dark, or maybe they were just too hard to capture on consumer-grade cameras. The more likely scenario is that while this was an idea during development, much like Cindy, it was abandoned early on. Either that, or they were part of the event, but quickly removed. Or maybe it was a situation like Animal Kingdom's Dead Red Elephant scandal, which only lasted for cast member previews. Regardless of the actual depiction of dead superheroes, Marvel wasn't too pleased about promoting the idea of it, so they forbid Universal from using Marvel characters within Halloween Horror Nights ever again. Last year, we covered the urban legend of the real skeletons within Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, whether any of them still exist within the attraction today is up for debate, but the initial desire for creating a dark sense of realism is clear. So when developing the Haunted Mansion, the same mentality was carried over, although obviously it's a bit harder when dealing with the subject of the paranormal. However, allegedly, there's one part of the Haunted Mansion that was a bona fide real artifact, Madame Leota's seance book.
Dark spirits. Hey, no dark spirits. Don't you make no dark spirits come out.
As the story goes, the book and candle were not part of the official layout, which is why they don't appear in conceptual models or the original blueprints. But someone on the ride's design team was able to acquire an actual book of witchcraft and incantations, and place them at the last minute alongside a candle prop. But this proved to be a problem when the scene began showing signs of actual paranormal activity. Again, allegedly, the book and nearby candle constantly changed places on the table despite nobody moving them. Of course, this is probably nothing more than a cleaning crew moving the objects after the park closed. But then again, it would explain why the original book was taken out of the scene in the 70s and replaced with another prop altogether. However, that leads us to another mystery of the seance room, the chair. Okay, at first you're gonna think I'm crazy, but hear me out. You see, going back to the earliest known photo of the show scene, there's what appears to be a strange circular stain or discoloration on the fabric. Now, whether or not you believe in this kind of thing, mysterious stains are a very real aspect of the paranormal culture. Once you see it, you really can't unsee it, and it becomes very obvious in every single early photograph of the seance room. Now maybe you're thinking, well, it is Disney, maybe it was a very intentional yet subtle detail. But then why was it always purposely kept in the shadows in promotional footage? And in 1990, when it finally did appear very clearly on video, was it covered up with a piece of fabric? To make this even more strange, I came across this photo taken by a cast member in 2002. The stain is covered by what appears to be a stitched-on floral pattern in the shape of, call me crazy, but some sort of demon. What's even weirder is that in video taken the same year the photo was taken, the floral pattern is nowhere to be seen. I even checked footage from a year before and a year or so later just to be thorough, but no demon floral pattern. And just in case you're wondering if I'm confusing the Magic Kingdom's version, no, as the two are very different in appearance. I've even gone through video of the rest of the attraction to see if maybe the chairs were simply being swapped around, but I couldn't find a single replica anywhere. Even by 2006, in which every single aspect of the show scene was more or less replaced with a new proper set piece, the original chair with the mysterious mark remained. However, upon closer inspection, it seems the stain was removed, or at least an attempt was made, but a circular pattern was left behind. This could still be seen as late as 2016, and even 2017. However, by 2018, the mysterious mark in its circle had vanished without a trace, and hasn't appeared since. Okay, so I have a special kind of fear of things that are near you in the dark but you just can't see. In the case of theme parks, let's call it attraction nyctophobia. One example is the abandoned space station within Spaceship Earth, which is now blacked out and virtually impossible to see in the dark. In particular, it's the rumor that the animatronic control operator is still up there, hovering above guests unnoticed. There's even remnants of the once spectacular but now abandoned finale, also hiding in the dark above visitors as they descend the giant sphere. Another example is underneath the Haunted Mansion seance room at the Magic Kingdom. For whatever reason, it's often used as storage for abandoned animatronics, in this case a backup animatronic of Max from Country Bear Jamboree being dismembered for spare parts. There's also the Compy's effect in Dinosaur, previously known as Countdown to Extinction. You see, the jumping Compy's effect was shut down for safety reasons around 2001, but they were simply left abandoned in place. For years, visitors were completely unaware of what was right above them in the dark, until low-light cameras improved enough to capture this on video. But while this is no longer the case, there's another even creepier hidden animatronic within Dinosaur that still exists today. Now I don't know why, but I find the Carnosaurus at the end of the attraction particularly terrifying, and I mean that honestly, as I legitimately have to resist shutting my eyes during the encounter. But my irrational fear of the dinosaur animatronic has since been made even more irrational, as I found out its severed head sits above the ride's finale. Of course, technically it's just a backup animatronic component, but its location and proximity to visitors while being shrouded in darkness is just darn unnerving.
You know what, guys? I found that really interesting. Yeah, this is what happens. So, yeah, I feel like I want to see more of this sort of thing, just because it's really interesting, and I like this sort of thing when you find out stuff in like parks and attractions, and also, you know, rides and stuff that you see abandoned or you know, stuff like this. So I feel like this is really important to talk about in a video like this. So I think whoever thought it was a good idea to talk about this whole thing is right. So yeah. Anyway, the last one is gonna be hopefully, I don't know, amazing top 10. And dare I say, I don't mind the channel in general, like at all, but they just talk about certain things on air. I don't think they're meant to be horrible, but they're just like, they're really over the top with, oh, this is scary, oh, this is disturbing, oh, this is that, and they do it all the time, but they're trying to make it amusingly alright, but it's sometimes on edge when you know watch these old videos. Probably just me. Anyway, haven't seen this video yet, so just take a look. For the last video on this episode of 2022 Halloween special. Let's go.
Amusement parks are supposed to be filled with laughter, excitement, and super fun rides, but sometimes they're actually filled with some weird and pretty terrifying things.
Yeah, like bones or skin, and unfortunately, obviously, a lot of vomit. We've got to talk about a lot today. Yeah, we have to unpack a lot of gross things today, looking like this. I'm your host, Taylor McWaters.
I'm your other host, Olivia Kozlowski, and today we are going to be covering the top 10 terrifying things recovered from amusement parks. Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have socks. This story comes from a Redditor, and it definitely isn't the most terrifying thing ever, but there's just something super strange and kind of intriguing about it, so I obviously had to tell you guys about it since we're besties. Basically, this Redditor, who goes by the username Park in the Nest, explained that one day after the amusement park they worked at had closed for the night, they found a backpack. They were clearly feeling brave because they opened the bag. I personally would have left it there and called the bomb squad or something, but hey, some might call me an overreactor. Anyway, so this person opens up this bag and just finds like 100 black socks. That's it. Again, I know it's not scary, you don't have to tell me that, but I feel like I have at least 20 questions for this person who the backpack belongs to. Why? Why at an amusement park? I don't know anymore.
Number 9, a lost phone. This is why you never make your phone wallpaper personal, okay? Take notes, people. This one comes from a user named Kid Cougar, which is a great name. They had just finished working at Disneyland for almost 5 years, and during their time there, they of course saw some wild things turn up in Lost and Found, like a singular Yeezy shoe, keys to a Ferrari, or a wallet with $700 cash stuffed in it. Bonus points for the fact that they counted the cash, keeping it real, nice. One of the weirdest things they found though, and I'll say this is pretty haunting, was an iPhone with a nude as the wallpaper, a nude personal photo right there in the front. Could you imagine? What kind of freak must you be to have this on your phone? Imagine someone checking to see what battery you're at and you're like, oh yeah, you're at 87%. Better keep that brightness real low, Frank.
In our number 8 spot today, we have Bob Hope. Okay, me again with another one that's not terrifying, but it is absolutely hilarious. If you don't know who Bob Hope is, he was a British-American stand-up comedian, vaudevillian actor, singer, and dancer, and considering he lived to be 100 years old, his career ended up spanning over 80 years, which is just incredible. So how does this relate to today's video? Well, someone explained that one year when they worked at an amusement park, they kept finding little hidden pictures of Bob everywhere. In an ice bucket, on the rides, in cash registers, in the gardens, literally everywhere you can think of, these little Bob Hope pictures popped up. There's something so funny about it to me, like for a whole summer someone just dedicated their life to sneaking around hiding these little Bob Hope photos. I know I'm supposed to be talking about terrifying stuff today and I'm not doing that, so to add a little spooky element for ya, imagine if this person was finding photos of themselves instead of Bob Hope. Yeah, call the police.
Number 7, hair ties. There are thousands of hair ties at one end of the Animal Kingdom roller coaster Expedition Everest. I imagine because someone started some stupid tradition. That's from an employee named Eclectic Said, and I have no idea why he's so mad about this. This guy is so rattled about hair ties for literally no reason. Well, I kinda get it, let's talk. He was probably on the ride at one point, he had a great time, and then come the end of this journey, he sees this lovely tradition where riders then flick their hair ties in a frenzy of fun, and this guy is just salty he couldn't participate. Maybe he's bald, who knows? I just did a video on global warming and how humans are the worst, and Expedition Everest sure isn't helping this image. I mean, it literally looks like melting ice and we're tossing garbage onto it. It looks bad. Also, side note, keep your greasy summer day split ends to yourself. Nobody behind you on a roller coaster needs that in their face at any point. Thanks.
In our number 6 spot today, we have skin. Okay guys, I'm here with one that's actually terrifying now. I knew we could make it. This story comes from a Redditor, First Suite in E-flat, and honestly, I'm just gonna read you what they wrote because I could not sum it up better than they did. They said, quote, I found a plastic baggie with cat skin in it. It was like one of those bearskin rugs. It was even pretty clean looking. Definitely not freshly skinned. I don't know how it got there, why it was there. I was pretty freaked out when I found it. Thought it was a dead animal. Well, First Suite in E-flat, you absolutely do not have to explain to us why you were freaked out by that find. We understand. I have 2 questions about this one. Firstly, why does anyone have that at all? But secondly, why would you have that at a theme park? Imagine packing your bag like sunscreen, check. Water bottle, check. Cat skin? Aw, Dad, you forgot the cat skin again? We gotta turn this car around.
Number 5, an engagement ring. Ah yes, no finer place to propose to the love of your life than on the relaxing Space Mountain. Nice, must be loud. This next one comes from a user named I've Got 3 Division, and they say that they worked at Space Mountain for 10 years at Walt Disney World. And over time, they also found some pretty wild belongings. For example, pants. Just a pair of pants, which brings up so many more questions in my head. They also found maracas, okay, a corncob pipe, beer cans, and a Santa hat. And also a prosthetic leg. Gotta keep those arms and legs in the vehicle at all times, guy. Read the sign. Perhaps one of the most scariest items recovered was an engagement ring. Did they say yes? Did they ask mid-ride? If so, I need the footage of this. That's probably bad for your back or neck, turning and proposing mid-roller coaster. Also, your grip better be A1. Gorilla glue that thing to the box, then you're good. You can go upside down and be like, she said no, but it's fine.
In our number 4 spot today, we have bones. This find came from an abandoned theme park, and honestly, we can be grateful for that, because if it didn't, I'd have a lot more questions to ask. A Reddit user called My Mom is a Karen 123 posted a photo in a bone identification thread. The photo was of, well, bones, and the question they posed was, quote, what spine is this? Found it in an abandoned theme park. There's something so hilarious about that to me, but it's also so creepy. They posted 3 separate photos of this tiny skeleton, which they so desperately needed to identify. Like I said before, I'm just glad this was found in an abandoned theme park and not an in-use one, because I would have had so many questions as to how an entire animal could have decomposed without anyone noticing until it was a skeleton. Also, in case you were wondering, the person took the skeleton to a museum for bone identification. I didn't know museums did that, but either way, it was a squirrel.
Number 3, a not-so-chill cooler. Remember when a bunch of archaeologists found a sarcophagus in Egypt and then they decided it would be a good idea to open it just because? Well, they found 3 skeletons inside and the smell was beyond horrible. Curiosity kills the cat, and for this amusement park employee, it definitely ruined their entire week. This Reddit user shared their story about closing up one night after guests had left the park. They were cleaning the picnic shelter and came across a cooler. Now, normally this is not a bizarre find. Families roll through here often. People need a place to keep things fresh. But when he opened it, he didn't see anything fresh. That's when the trouble began, in fact. Just like that ancient Egyptian sarcophagus, this cooler did not smell great. It was filled with puke, like a lot of puke. They said a lot, so whatever you think that looks like in your head, there you go. Yuck. It was one of the most disgusting things I have ever seen. Yeah, nobody's gonna fight you on that. Poor soul. I don't know who I feel bad for more here, the person who made the mess or the person who found it. Either way, this is all bad. Also, I'll take a Coke. Thanks.
In our number 2 spot today, we have a missile? This one comes from another Redditor, of course, because that's where all of the wildest stories tend to come from. Basically, the theme park they were visiting has been abandoned for a decent amount of time, and the land it sits on is privately owned. There are a ton of no trespassing signs around, but this Redditor, who grew up close to the abandoned park and drove by it every day, decided that they had enough of guessing what may be in there, and one day decided to actually go and check it out. They said that the park contained a lot of weird stuff, like, quote, old rusted out cars that hadn't moved in years with fresh brand new number plates on them, a bamboo fencing inside these wooden teepees that looked like it was freshly installed despite these teepees sitting dormant for decades. But the weirdest thing that they said that they found was this weird missile looking thing. When someone brought up the fact that perhaps it was once a decoration for a ride, the OP replied that this theme park was basically all like children's fairy tales and folklore and that sort of a thing, so no real reason for whatever this is, real or not, to be there. The item was found inside of a fenced box that also contained things like bikes for toddlers and washing machines. I don't know, this place sounds weird.
And finally, number 1, Winnie the Pooh's ear. This next one is just not for the faint of heart, guys. This user named Hiribi shared their experience where they had to shut down operations for an entire day, all to remove Winnie the Pooh's ear. Tragic. Disney is full of silly hats and even sillier headbands with ears on them. It's a great time. All the silly ears you can think of. Mickey, Minnie, Winnie, the Aristocats. It's a great look until one of those ears falls off into a dangerous part of the ride and then everybody's life is at risk. The thing is the size of a Dorito and guests had to leave the line. They had to shut down for an entire day. How dare you, Winnie? This sounds silly, but ride shutdowns are no joke. time is money at an amusement park, and that's why soft drinks are $18. Now it's starting to make sense. Pooh's Honey Hunt at Disneyland Tokyo cost about $120 million to build. That's like 40 funnel cakes. It's not cheap.
Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thank you so much for checking it out. Let us know down below in the comments if you've ever been to an amusement park, and have you found anything terrifying there? Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it today. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see more. I swear we're not always dressed like this.
You never know. I'm the worst mime ever. I'm Taylor McWaters.
I've been Olivia Kozlowski, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Whoa. Okay, so let me just say something. It's all weird and bizarre, but I feel like I have to put it to the Weird and Bizarre series just because I think it's going to be an excellent episode for Halloween, and it's probably the first ever Halloween video in Weird and Bizarre series. And hello, whatever, we don't care. I know, but some people want to care, some people want to know all about this sort of thing. So anyway guys, thank you very much for watching this Halloween special. Yes, I know it doesn't seem like it's a really good Halloween special, but hey ho, it might be worse. It might be looking like it's to do with winter, but now I'm doing this video on Halloween. That would be even weirder, wouldn't it? But anyway, this is actually on Halloween, guys. I'm not making it up. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching this video. I feel like put in the comments what you think, or what's your favourite video. The Yesterworld video, that's my personal favourite. Or top amazing top 10, or probably Disney Dan. Put in the comments what is your favourite, you know. So, but personally, I think it's Yesterworld, just because I like his videos and everything like that. So, but you obviously have a different opinion. So put in the comments what you think. Okay. Anyway, guys, I'll see you all next time. Bye. Hang on, are we still doing a video now? Because I feel like this is kind of boring. What can we do? Hang on. Actually, before I go, yeah, I just want to say, I feel like because loads in the UK, I'm not sure if you're living in a different country, and if it's the same sort of thing in your country, that's okay. But if I look completely stupid to you right now, and the person who's living in like another country, I'm so sorry, but in the UK at the moment, there's cost rising and cost where we going low and all everything. So we have to be careful what we buy and stuff. So anyway, if you want to buy any Halloween sort of stuff, why don't you just, reuse all the old Halloween, costumes or packets, or actually just buy the sweets and that's it. Buy the candy and that's it. Don't buy any costumes. Just use it from last year's, because you probably had the same sort of size. But I'm just thinking of the people who has who has less money, or well, everybody has less money, but you know what I mean. So, again, guys, I'm just saying, be careful what you're going to buy, especially around Halloween, because loads of people want to know what you're going to buy on Halloween. But, yeah, the same with Christmas time or anything else. So, yeah, I'm just being cautious about all you lot, And loads of people will say, yeah, thank you very much, Craig, we don't care, but thank you very much, I do appreciate it, whoopie doo, nobody cares, woo. But some people say, yeah, but we can still buy our stuff, but thank you very much. Or people can say, actually, Craig's got a point, why don't we just be careful what we're spending our money on? But anyway, thank you very much for watching this video, and I know this is not really interesting. I did plan this video through, even though it looks like I haven't, and I'm just saying lots of rubbish coming out of my mouth that I'm not doing. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you all next time. And make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. And yeah, there's nothing else to say at the moment. But yeah, hopefully you have a good Halloween week, day, whatever. Hopefully it's just going to be interesting. And if not, you're gonna stay stuck indoors and watch any film that's to do with Halloween. I'll probably watch, I don't know, what am I gonna watch? I'll probably watch, maybe, actually I haven't got much Halloween movies, probably because I watched them all, you know what I mean? So maybe I'll watch other videos, you know, or something, I don't know. But anyway, thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you next time. I know I already said that, but I feel like I haven't already. Why is everything creepy around here? Why am I always having a memory loss of things? This is weird. Well, this is really, really weird. I don't like this anymore. Goodbye. You know what, guys? Don't do silly tricks at home, because you might kill yourself. You know what I mean? You might kill yourself. Ish. You might have an accident and stuff. So don't do that at all. This is why people say don't do this at home. Don't do this at home. Just don't do. Hang on, why is everything different? Oh.